guys had a great week. The weekend's coming in. Hope you guys have a chance to relax, take some time off, chill with the family, friends, get some personal work done. I wanted to do this short stream tonight. I just wanted to look at some stuff. I wanted to talk about some stuff about things that could have happened in the DC before the whole James Gunn regime came in and started to change things. I want to take a look at some of these old projects that could have been. Also want to take a look at some stuff happening in the anime space. Also, um, put the volume up on this really quick. Um, yeah, I just wanted to take a look at some stuff. Quite a few things I want to look at. Bullets and Blockbuster, this YouTube channel, give it a look at when you guys get a chance. But basically, they talk about like not just with like superhero stuff, but like with a lot of things in Hollywood actually, about movies that could have been. Either movies that had like a different version before it was like before it was greenlit, or like canceled movies. It's a really good channel. I know there's other YouTube channels that I'm pretty sure there's other YouTube channels that does things like this also, but this one's like I feel like this they do specifically like action oriented movies, like and movies that have a pretty decent following behind them. So like obviously your Marvel, your DC, like your other and then your other movies here and there. But they have a yeah, but there's a pretty hefty catalog behind this. So yeah, I wanted to take a look at this because like I said before, they were trying to do a Man of Steel sequel. I believe Henry Cavill and the director for the Mission Impossible were trying to do a sequel to present to WB. And yeah, I just want to take a look at this. So let's take a look at this video.
What if Henry Cavill returned for Man of Steel 2? For starters, allegedly it wouldn't have been called that. Instead, rumors suggest that it would have been titled Man of Tomorrow, and it would have been a direct sequel to Man of Steel, as Henry Cavill would go on to say that he didn't consider Batman vs Superman a Man of Steel sequel.
Yeah, this was never a sequel. I don't think anyone saw it like that at first, but Batman vs Superman was never a sequel to Man of Steel.
Viewing it instead as an introduction to the Justice League.
It is very much in my desire to do a Man of Steel 2, a direct sequel to Man of Steel.
Sure.
And there's a whole bunch of Superman stories that I want to tell. There's a whole style of Superman's character that I'm very keen to tell.
And while that film would come very close to happening several times, it ultimately would get canceled. So let's dive in and find out why that happened and what could have been Man of Tomorrow. Well, writer David
I
Goyer
actually had no idea the sequel would have been called Man of Tomorrow. I think everyone thought it was just going to be called like Man of Steel 2. So Man of Tomorrow, like that's another it's another term they call Superman. I believe it was Jim Lee who came up with the term because they instead of them doing the American way, they said Truth, Justice, and a Better Tomorrow. So they just call Superman like the Man of Tomorrow. So I was kind of confused. Like, what would the third movie be then? What would the third movie be called at that point? But yeah, let's continue this.
and Christopher Nolan were writing the story for The Dark Knight Rises, they got stuck on the third act and decided to take a break. When they regrouped, Nolan asked Goyer if he had cracked the script, to which Goyer replied no, leading Nolan to ask,
"What the hell have you been doing?" I said, "I don't know, I've been screwing around with the Superman idea." And he said, "Well, let's hear it." I told it to him, and he said, "I would produce that if you want."
Goyer's idea was to treat it more like a First Contact story and show what it would actually be like if a godlike alien arrived on Earth. And while they would eventually hire Zack Snyder to direct the picture, they also considered Tony Scott as well.
Chris had also met with Tony Scott. So there's a version of a Tony Scott Man of Steel in some parallel universe that's just a movie I would have also loved to have seen.
When Man of Steel came out, it received a mixed to positive reception, and while it was a success, it wasn't the critical darling that Batman Begins was. Still, plans moved ahead for a sequel, and with the brief appearance of a Wayne Enterprises satellite during Superman's fight with Zod, many fans began to wonder if DC was following Marvel's path of producing a handful of standalone films to introduce each hero before teaming everyone up in an Avengers-style film.
And the thing about that is something that they should have done. I don't know why after Man of Steel they fast forward straight into Batman vs Superman and introducing all the Justice League characters. Like, to this day, it's one of the dumbest moves they ever made. Like, DC literally could have taken its time. Like, they could have taken its sweet time introducing all of these characters, getting them grounded, getting the audience to know these characters before you move on and doing a Justice League. Instead of doing that, they want to like do copy or try to copy what Marvel's doing. Not even copy them, just fast forward, and it was just dumb. Like, till this day, it was just the big one of the biggest misses in cinematic history, in my opinion.
Film. As the team sat down to discuss what the sequel to Man of Steel should be about and who the villain should be, Zack Snyder immediately suggested Batman. That's what the sequel to Man of Steel should be about and who the villain.
I think Michael Shannon did a really good job as General Zod. He did a really good job playing him. They did a really good job with his character, in my opinion.
Should be, Zack Snyder immediately suggested Batman, feeling it would be an interesting contrast to go from Superman fighting his physical equal from his home planet to fighting a man from Earth with no super.
Yeah, and that was just dumb. Like, if you wanted Superman to fight a man, introduce Lex Luthor. It's that simple. Like, even though they did introduce like a version of Lex Luthor in Batman vs Superman, I just don't understand like why would you go that direction. Like, it just made no sense. And like I said before, like, they made Batman a killer, so it just made no sense. Which, by the way, we are going to watch a video after this about what could have been this universe's version of their standalone Batman movie, which would feature Deathstroke. So we're going to look at that after this. But yeah, this just made no sense. Like, if you wanted Superman to fight a man, you do Lex Luthor. It's that simple.
Superpowers at all. Plus, Snyder didn't want to do another alien invasion movie. While Snyder and Nolan considered having Man of Steel take place in Nolan's Dark Knight universe, they ultimately decided against it, given that The Dark Knight Rises and...
I'm actually really happy they went against that. Like I said, like, Nolan's Batman was just too grounded. It wouldn't make no sense to have Superman in this universe. And plus, this Batman's basically retired now, so it wouldn't even make any sense. So I'm actually really happy they went in that direction.
With Bruce Wayne retiring and John Blake taking over as Batman. Furthermore, they felt that audiences would be disappointed seeing Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Batman slug it out with Superman instead of Christian Bale's. As a result, they decided to recast and create an entirely new Batman to fit into this universe. It's also important to put this in historical context. Man of Steel came out 1 year after the Avengers, so Warner Brothers, eager to catch up and have a billion-dollar grossing team-up film of their own, decided to forego doing standalone films for each character and instead rushed out a Justice League film.
Which was the dumbest thing they could have done. The dumbest thing. You guys could have made so much money going that route of building up your teams. I just don't understand why they did that. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't understand why they didn't do that. Like, you could have, and plus one of these movies could have made $1 billion, like one of these standalone movies. Like, it's that simple. Like, first of all, I felt like movies like The Flash, or if they hire like a better actor to play The Flash and a good director, and you get a good script, The Flash could have been close to $1 billion project, in my opinion. Batman, obviously, that could have been a decent one too, especially with the original plans of having Batman fight Deathstroke and then have him like similar to because I heard from what they said it's going to be similar to the games. Like, he's going to be like in Arkham, and it's going to like be his rogue gallery. That right there is $1 billion idea. That right there alone is $1 billion idea. You have Wonder Woman, of course. I mean, the first Wonder Woman movie was successful anyways. Who else? You could have done a Green Lantern, a proper Green Lantern. You could have done who was founding member of the Justice League. Could have done an Aquaman movie. The first Aquaman movie was pretty successful, and then you just build upon your characters and build upon like a decent plot for your first Justice League movie. It's that simple. Like I'm just so confused. It's amazing to me that, and you know what's crazy? DC has done it before with their animated series and their animated movies, but yet they refused. They refused to do it for their live action. And that's the mistake they made, and that's something that they have to accept that they fucked up.
Following Batman v Superman.
The person that was running Brothers at the time had done this big release where they had pitched like these 20 movies over the next 10 years that like none of which were written yet. And like, it was just so crazy how much sort of architecture was just being built, you know, on air. And I just, for me, that some of the stuff that was going on in that time was just an example of like, this is not how you build a house.
Because of this short-sightedness, Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice League would all underperform, leading to Man of Steel 2 being constantly put off in favor of producing other DC properties.
I mean,
as Warner Brothers,
BVS, Batman vs Superman, of course, critically it wasn't that good, but you know it did make a lot of money. I think it made like 800 some mil, so it made a lot of money. DC could rival Marvel if they took it more shoot, and that's the thing. They could have rivaled them if they taken their time and planned it out. Like you said before, like pitching these movies, like having a yearly plan of producing these movies. That's what they should have done. Like, I'm just so confused. Why are you trying to do this catch up to Marvel? Like, let Marvel do their thing. And you gotta understand, when the Avengers came out and all that, like, it was still early for them. And I know DC regrets it now, especially in terms of like where Marvel is right now. I know DC regrets it. Because if they'd taken their time, they could have been like where Marvel is at right now. Probably even higher than what they were now. Because the thing is too, most of these actors for these roles, they wanted to continue playing these roles. Like Henry Cavill, Superman. I'm pretty sure if the production was better, Ben Affleck would have stayed as Batman, and obviously Gal Gadot would have stayed as Wonder Woman also. Like I said, it was just things were just rushed. They did not have a plan, and like I said, one of the main reasons why these movies at DC fails is because the Warner Bros. Execs they try to fast pace things. They stick their nose and stuff, and they're trying to like push these incredibly stupid ideas. So yeah, that's one of the main. So yeah, that then when you put that in effect, you know, that's why it just failed. But yeah, DC, yeah, like you said, Flame, DC really could have. I said this before. I think DC could have taken its time.
Scrambled to catch up to Marvel. And while Zack Snyder famously left the production of Justice League before it was finished, had he stayed on and returned to direct Man of Steel 2, or at least overseen its development, he would have looked to other worlds for Superman's villain for the film.
I think you really have to look outside of the Earth for challenges for him, because
and my problem with Zack Snyder too. My problem with it is that he's just trying to like change like. He was trying to like change the formula of these characters too much. Like I said, like making a broken killer type of Batman to introduce in the DC was just a terrible idea. Like it was so dumb. And I'm just being like I said, Zack Snyder. When it comes to making movies, like, in terms of like the cinematography and the action, it looks good. But I'm just saying, I feel like this should have been like a co-director, someone who is familiar and respects the source material to keep things how they should be. I'm just saying.
How powerful he is.
And the villain he would have featured was Brainiac. And while Brainiac has appeared on shows like Smallville and Krypton, his big screen debut has been long overdue. Although there were plans to feature him as the main villain in both Superman 3 and Tim Burton's infamously scrapped Superman Lives, where the character would have been played by Christopher Walken. Henry Cavill was also keen to feature him too.
I think a great villain would be Brainiac. I think that'd be a good villain to play against.
Still, Superman's primary antagonist would have continued to be Lex Luthor.
And of course, you'd have to continue with Lex, because Lex is his real nemesis.
And because of that, rumors suggested that Lex would have played a role in Brainiac's origin, with Lex using Kryptonian tech to enhance Lex OS, resulting in the creation of Brainiac. This would have been similar to not only how Doomsday was created in
Yeah. See, that's not a good idea. Just stick to the comics, man. Stick to the comics. Brainiac is someone who seeks knowledge of every world. Just keep him as this alien android of him just collecting knowledge from worlds. Just keep it at that. Stop making it overly complicated. I'm just so confused why directors refuse to use the source material. I'm just so confused why these Hollywood creators just don't want to use source material and instead they want to make their own stuff up. Like, dude, the fans will respect you more if you stick to the source material. It's that simple.
BVS, but also would share some similarities to the creation of Ultron. Snyder was also interested in bringing back the Kryptonians stuck in the Phantom Zone.
The Kryptonians.
That would even make sense because you had Superman kill Zod. Now, that's the main reason why I don't even see a point of bringing them back. Now, if Superman, like that's why I said, like, the one thing I didn't like about Man of Steel is that they had Superman kill Zod. Like, I feel like he should have thrown Zod in the Phantom Zone and keep Zod around for like future storylines. Them killing Zod was just not a good idea, especially for Michael Shannon who killed that role. Like, that's another thing that just made no sense. They should have kept him around.
That are in the Phantom Zone are probably still around. And there was always a possibility for their return.
However, it's important to note that several different pitches and treatments were submitted by various writers and directors between the time BVS came out to when the project was finally scrapped. And it's rumored that David Goyer's pitch would have built off the Man of Steel prequel comic he wrote with Zack Snyder and a few others that takes place on Krypton thousands of years ago. In it, we meet Kara Zor-El, who eventually will become Supergirl, and watch as she nears completion of her training to become a member of Krypton's Explorers Guild. Citizens tasked was searching the cosmos for suitable planets to terraform and make them inhabitable for Kryptonians. Kara's journey to colonize other planets takes an unexpected turn, though, leading to a confrontation that ultimately brings her to prehistoric Canada as her ship crash lands in the snow, eventually getting buried underneath the ice sheet, with her going into a deep freeze like a certain Captain Rogers. The comic ends in 2013 as a signal is discovered by NASA deep underground in Canada. Elsewhere at this time, Clark Kent is working on a fishing boat off the Alaskan coast. In Man of Steel 2, Supergirl would have been awakened before Brainiac comes to Earth looking for the Codex, and from the bits of Kryptonian knowledge Brainiac has, creates Bizarro, who he sends after Supergirl and Superman to retrieve the Codex. Matthew.
No. I think they should have kept it as, like, because I'm pretty sure Lex Luthor created Bizarro, if I'm not mistaken. But I guess it would have been interesting to see, like, a little twist to the. I guess it would have been interesting to see.
Vaughn, director of X-Men First Class and Kingsman, was reportedly Warner Brothers' top choice to direct, and the feeling was apparently mutual, as Vaughn has said that he was desperate to direct a Superman movie, even pitching his own take before Goyer and Nolan pitched what would become Man of Steel. However, Vaughn would state that he felt it was a mistake to pair up Superman and Batman right after Man of Steel, feeling that the two characters and universes they exist in don't gel well together. He would go on to say that he thinks there's room for a new Superman film, but a proper Superman film, one that's colorful and universes they exist in don't gel well together.
I kind of agree with him, but I don't agree at the same time, because yes, you shouldn't have thrown Batman right after Man of Steel. At the same time, like, what do you mean they don't gel well together? They're one of the bestest friends in the DC universe. So yeah, this is what I'm talking about. These people need to understand the source material before you say you want to go in and work on these properties. And like, that's the thing I'm just still getting upset about with some of these people in Hollywood.
He would go on to say that he thinks there's room for a new Superman film, but a proper Superman film, one that's colorful and fun and not a dark one. Henry Cavill would echo these sentiments.
I would love to draw from all of my favorite comic books and have that joyful, hopeful, powerful figure who Superman is.
And this is why I like Henry Cavill, man. Like, he respects, whenever he goes into something, he reads and respects the source material. That's something I really like about him. That's why a lot of people like Henry Cavill. That's why he left The Witcher, because The Witcher, they were trying to lean towards some weird shit, like drawing away from the source material, and that's why he walked away, and I respect him for that. And I heard they're trying to do the same thing right now with Warhammer.
Unfortunately, following the disappointing Batman v Superman and the absolute disaster that was Justice League, Warner Brothers pumped the brakes on Man of Steel 2 as they rethought their approach to DC's film slate. Director Christopher McQuarrie, who had just worked with...
I mean, this is why it gets me upset, is like, the reason why you can't even blame Henry Cavill for your failures, because it's you guys that did this, because you wanted to press the gas and rush everything to a Justice League. Like, how are you starting off your DC universe, and Justice League was like, what, the third film? Like, and Justice League is like your fourth film. Like, that makes no sense. Why are you rushing things that quickly? Where's our Batman standalone? Where's our Wonder Woman standalone? Flash standalone? Green Lantern? Like, why are you rushing things that quickly for? It's unnecessary.
With Henry Cavill on Mission Impossible Fallout, would team up with the actor to pitch their take on it.
Now, see, when I heard about this, I was very interested. Because the guy who does Mission Impossible, I think he does a really good job with those movies. So I feel like a lot of people would have been interested in seeing something like this.
Pitch their take on a brighter, more fun Man of Steel 2.
And not just like the chocolate box sort of, saving kittens and stuff. A little bit of that, absolutely, but also the badass version of Superman. Superman who you see his raw power, not necessarily unleashed in a negative way, but you see it in the protection of other people.
But Warner Brothers chose not to pursue the idea. Ironically, and what would become a sign of things to come, later that year when Warner Brothers was courting James Gunn, the filmmaker behind Guardians of the Galaxy, the studio offered him the chance to write and direct Man of Steel 2, but he chose to reboot the Suicide Squad instead. While the studio negotiated with Cavill to...
So yeah, you guys heard it there, guys. He was supposed to... They wanted him to do a Man of Steel sequel, and I feel like we got that with that Superman movie that just came out. I feel like for people who are wondering, I feel like you guys got that. So instead during the time he rebooted this movie, which was okay. I watched it. It was okay. But it just goes to show you that when it comes to big heroes like that, I don't think he's not the man for the job. So, and again, I just don't understand out of all people why Warner Bros. Approached him out of all people.
Instead, while the studio negotiated with Cavill to reprise his role for a brief cameo in Shazam, contract talks between the two sides broke down, which is why we never see Superman's face in the film, which frankly was embarrassing for DC, considering all the cameos of Marvel characters between each of their films. Unable to come to agreement with Cavill, and with Warner Brothers recognizing that none of Cavill's films performed up to expectations at the box office, they considered hitting the reset button on both Superman and the DC Universe. However, before that could happen, there would be one final...
And again, this wasn't Henry Cavill's fault. This is all Warner Bros. Execs trying to play capture to Marvel. It's all their fault, not his fault.
Attempt to bring back Cavill for a long-delayed Man of Steel sequel. Ever since Dwayne Johnson made the leap from pro wrestler to actor, he's been linked to playing Black Adam, Shazam's arch nemesis. A script for Shazam would finally be written in 2017, which would have featured Black Adam as the film's villain. Except there was just one problem. When Dwayne Johnson was first linked to the role in the early 2000s, he was a wrestler turned actor trying to make a name for himself in Hollywood. But by 2017, he was the biggest movie star on the planet, and felt that appearing in Shazam as the villain behind a largely unknown Zachary Levi did not align with his status as a top-tier star.
And that was dumb. As soon as he said that, I would have fired him. Straight up, I would have fired him, because Black Adam is the nemesis of Shazam. It's like you cannot fight or negotiate that. It's like I'm just so confused. I'm still confused that they even allowed this shit to happen.
And also overlooked the potential of transforming the character of Black Adam into a multi-film franchise of its own. Instead, Johnson suggested separating the characters and giving them each their own films.
Which was a dumb idea. Which was a stupid idea. And again, reason, and again, it proves it too because the Black Adam movie failed terribly, and it wasn't even and point. It just wasn't even a good movie in general.
Not only that, but Johnson had his eyes on a much bigger matchup. Johnson had his eyes on Superman and felt those two squaring off against each other would do huge.
This see, and this is what I'm talking about when these people in Howard do not understand the source material. I feel like they just don't read or even ingest the source material. I feel like they just vaguely like hear tidbits about it here and there and just you know go off on it. Like this is why I like people like Henry Cavill, John Bernthal, Charlie Cox. They care about the source material when it comes to the characters they play. These people, they just don't. They really do not care. I feel like they just look up stuff or look up some videos here and there, and they just, all right, bet I'm that character. Like it just doesn't work like that. I feel like these companies, these studios, they really need to be a bit more strict when it comes to their criteria of certain people playing certain characters, especially if you're playing a role based off an established property. Like you need to study and understand the source material of who these characters, of who you're playing. It's that simple. And I'm really getting tired of Hollywood just letting these actors be themselves and not becoming the characters.
Huge business. So with that in mind, Johnson pitched a multi-year plan for Black Adam and a Cavill-led Superman in which the two properties would interweave, setting up an eventual Superman vs. Black Adam showdown.
Which again, this is stupid. This is dumb. Like, this dude really thinks Black Adam's on Superman's level. Like, Superman will wipe the floor with you. It's not even a competition. He thinks just because he's The Rock, he needs all this fame. Like, dude, Black Adam as a character is not on the same tier level as Superman. He's not even on the same tier level as Batman or any of the founding members of the Justice League. Like, you are Shazam's arch nemesis. That's it.
Worthy of a WrestleMania main event.
The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
This is also a good time to point out that both Johnson and Cavill had the same manager, Johnson's ex-wife, Dani Garcia. And Johnson and Garcia were relentless in not only convincing Cavill to return to the role, but Warner Brothers as well, who were reluctant to sign on. But eventually they did and paid Cavill $250,000 to appear at the end of Black Adam in a cameo that was shot very late in production, which saw Cavill don the original Superman suit from Man of Steel. At this stage, Cavill even left his role on The Witcher, with some speculating it was to focus on playing Superman again, although there were also reports of creative differences.
I wanted to make it official.
Yeah, I remember this message too. This message came out like a few weeks. I think it was like a few days after the Black Adam movie, and everyone was really excited when he made this message. Like everyone was excited.
I am back as Superman.
Unfortunately, two very important things happened next. First, Black Adam would bomb relative to
this movie bombed. Like this movie was not good. Like it didn't make any money, and second of all, it just wasn't a good movie in general. It just wasn't good.
Budget and received mostly negative reviews. And two, James Gunn would be hired by Warner Brothers in a Kevin Feige-like role to run DC.
Is James Gunn the Kevin Feige of DC?
Peter Safran does a lot of what Kevin Feige does. A lot of what I do is I just work on the creative side of things.
And his first order of business would be to finish all of the DC films currently in production, such as Shazam 2, The Flash, Blue Beetle, and Aquaman 2, before rebooting the entire DCU and starting fresh. Just prior to Gunn assuming control of DC, a script treatment for Man of Steel 2 was written by Stephen Knight, creator of Peaky Blinders, that again would have featured Brainiac. However, both Warner Brothers and James Gunn reportedly were underwhelmed by it. And with that, Gunn would go on to start fresh, prioritizing a rebooted Superman film that he would write and direct himself, featuring a younger Superman.
Next up is the big one, the true beginning of the DCU. This is called Superman Legacy.
Cavill, who filmed another cameo for The Flash, would have that cameo cut by Gunn, who decided it wasn't wise to tease future DC films that fans were never going to see, making Cavill's cameo in Black Adam the last we would see of his Superman.
Henry Cavill is the Superman of our generation, and he is a phenomenal Superman.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
But yeah, that was the video. Like I said, where DC's heading now, I don't know where they're heading. I really have no idea where they're heading. That Superman movie that came out, you know, there's people that like it. Obviously, there's some people that don't like it. I knew what it was going to be as soon as it was announced, and based off the trailers and based off the clips that were releasing, I automatically knew what this movie was going to be. So, not surprised. Let's take a look at this next video. This is something that I really want to look at.
Fresh off his Oscar win for Argo, Ben Affleck was cast as the Cape Crusader.
Come on.
With the idea that he'd first square off against Superman, then form the Justice League before helming a standalone Batman adventure as both actor and director. Unfortunately, that last part never happened for a variety of reasons. So let's dive in and find out what those were and what could have been Ben Affleck's The Batman. After catching a glimpse of a Wayne Enterprises satellite in Man of Steel, fans immediately began to wonder whether this version of Superman existed in Nolan's Batman universe. As we waited on news for Man of Steel 2, fans were shocked to learn that plans for a direct sequel would be delayed in favor of expanding the DC universe by pitting Superman against Batman.
I want you to remember my hand at your throat. I want you to remember the one man who beat you.
And while Warner Brothers desperately wanted Christian Bale to reprise the role, allegedly willing to back a Brinks truck up to his home in order to have him return, Nolan ultimately chose to recast the Cape Crusader, feeling Superman in the greater DC universe didn't fit into his grounded take on Gotham City. And with that, speculation immediately began to swirl over who would play Batman, until news finally broke that it would be Ben Affleck.
And I'm still upset that they went in this direction. Like, again, they should have just done a standalone Batman film. Like, they still should have done the Man of Steel sequel, and they should have done a Batman standalone film. Those two movies should have been the movies that came out that year, and then you can do a Batman and Superman movie. Not them fighting each other, but them working together. Because again, it makes no sense that they're fighting each other. It's just dumb, especially for that type of Batman that you created.
Affleck, you don't bomb in Phantom, Joe!
Many fans, having not learned their lesson after Keaton was cast as Batman and Ledger as the Joker, were quick to criticize the move.
You must have really been hurt by those comments.
I was hurt. I was less hurt than I would have been 10 years earlier. But I was hurt because I felt like, wait a minute, come on, what do I gotta do?
But regardless of what the internet thought, WB must have thought they pulled off quite the coup. Not only because they would be getting an A-list actor, but said actor had emerged over the last few years as one of Hollywood's top directors, helping to not only revitalize his public image after Geely nearly killed his career, but also land the job as the Batman's lead actor and director. To prepare for the role, Affleck immediately hit the gym and bulked up before starring alongside Henry Cavill in Batman v Superman. And the results, unfortunately, were not what Warner Brothers were hoping for.
Since reviews for the film have come out, and I don't know if you've had a chance to have a look at them, or like your response to those, or...
No, what are they saying?
Well, it's been getting a mixed response, so you already know.
I just wanted you to say it. I wanted to see what you were saying.
Personally, I really liked it, but I just wondered whether how that makes you guys feel, and whether it will even affect the film as such.
Well, the interesting thing is that we get the critics.
Following the record-breaking opening weekend, which proved there was massive interest in the film, its second weekend saw a record-breaking box office drop due to poor...
Yeah, word of mouth after that first weekend, you know, that's when it started to drop. Because like I said, I went to see this movie like opening weekend. You know, I was pretty hyped to see it. And then after leaving, you know, even when I was talking to my friends about it, like, 'cause some of them wanted to go see it, I was just telling them that literally just don't get your expectations. Don't get your expectations too high for this movie. And they were shocked to hear that from me, because, you know, I'm a huge DC fan, and it was just, and that honestly began like my like how I just stopped taking. That's when I started to like not take DC too seriously after watching this movie.
poor reviews and negative word of mouth. Still, $800 million is nothing to sneeze at, which is why plans for Justice League went ahead at full steam. From here, everyone knows the story. Not only did director Zack Snyder's daughter tragically pass away, but Warner Brothers were less than thrilled with the footage they were seeing as the movie was being shot. And after Snyder stepped down to be with his family, WB hired Joss Whedon to rewrite and reshoot large segments of the film. When Joss Whedon's version of Justice League finally arrived in theaters, the film was followed by a post-credits scene that featured Deathstroke and Lex Luthor deciding to team up, teasing the Luthor-led stable of supervillains known as the Injustice League as the primary antagonists for a future sequel to the Justice League.
Shouldn't we have a league of our own?
However, once Zack Snyder's director's cut of Justice League came out, fans saw a very different version of this scene. In fact, what they saw was the original version, which was designed to set up Ben Affleck's standalone Batman film, as Lex Luthor reveals Batman's secret identity to Deathstroke.
And I'm still kind of upset about that. Like, there's another reason why I didn't like Batman vs. Superman. It's just like, I feel like it's too, if you wanted to have Lex Luthor know who Batman is, which I don't think he should, it's too early for that.
While simultaneously destroying Bruce's finances and painting him into a corner. Alfred would have died, and it's possible Commissioner Gordon would have been another likely target. However, I don't think that would have been a smart move. But then again, he knows who he is, so I kind of see why. But still, I don't think that would have been the smartest move to make. It's worth noting that in the game, Michael Douglas navigates a world that blurs the lines between reality and illusion, requiring him to decipher truth from deception. So it stands to reason whether Deathstroke is actually killing those close to Bruce, or just making him think that he did. Not only does Deathstroke make Bruce Wayne's life into a living hell, but he does the same to Batman by orchestrating a breakout at Arkham to tire Batman out and wear him down. In fact, the bulk of the script was primarily set in Arkham Asylum. So if you're a huge fan of those games and always thought they would have made a great
hold on, let me let this finish, hold on.
Movie, you would have got your wish. However, this begs the question of what members of Batman's rogue gallery would have been released. It's been rumored that many, if not most of them, would have made an appearance in the film in one way or another, with Jared Leto's Joker definitely returning. Cinematographer Robert Richardson, famous for his collaborations with both
See, this would have been an amazing movie if they let this happen, because again, the Arkham games is arguably one of the most beloved. It's one of the most beloved franchises in all of gaming. And on top of that, you have characters that we have yet to see in a Batman film, especially his more metahuman side of characters. Like, people would have been very excited to see certain characters. Like, people like me, I need to see Clayface, Killer Croc, Man Bat. You know, I need to see those characters. I mean, we technically did see Killer Croc in Suicide Squad, a very short Killer Croc, but I think a lot of people would have been very excited to see things like that for this movie. I think it would have been interesting.
Scorsese and Tarantino was hired to lens the picture, and he claimed that the film was going to be a psychological exploration of Batman and would have delved into the insanity aspects of Bruce's character, and audiences would have seen something a little darker than what they've seen in the past.
Come on, finish him. Look at him. Look at him. Better than the creep who killed your parents.
And if you played the Arkham games, you know that this sort of thing is also explored there too, as Batman finds himself drugged by Joker, where he experiences hallucinations as he delves into the layers of his past traumas as a crime fighter. A Batman film set in Arkham would have been a refreshing change of pace for the franchise, as previous films have mostly dealt with Gotham City. A film about an older Batman trapped in Arkham, which is inherently claustrophobic, and forced to confront not only his enemies, but also his inner demons, would have been a unique cinematic experience. And speaking of those inner demons, we would have learned more about what happened to Robin, which would have served to act as a parallel to Deathstroke's backstory of losing a son.
Why you sent a boy wonder?
To do a man's job.
The idea behind Deathstroke in this film was to make him a mirror image of Batman, with both men trained by the League of Assassins. Affleck was insistent that just like Bruce, he didn't want Deathstroke to have any powers. He just wanted a man who experienced a tragedy, but instead of going down the path Bruce went and trying to fight crime and prevent similar tragedies from reoccurring, Deathstroke just became a nihilistic killer consumed by revenge. This characterization would have served as a nice contrast to Bruce, showing the road not taken after the death of his parents. However, after the death of Robin, Batman seems to have embraced some of this mentality and disregarded his #1 rule: no killing. Enraged after the death of Alfred and others close to him, the climax of the film would have seen Batman out for revenge. With his life reduced to shambles, he heads into a final showdown against Deathstroke as they fight in the streets of Gotham, inspired by the fight choreography in the Arkham Origins cinematic trailer. Finding himself overwhelmed,
One of the best, this is arguably the best cinematic trailer for the Arkham games, hands down.
Climax of the film would have seen Batman out for revenge. With his life reduced to shambles, he heads into a final showdown against Deathstroke as they fight in the streets of Gotham, inspired by the fight choreography in the Arkham Origins cinematic trailer. Finding himself overwhelmed, outmatched, and completely outclassed by Deathstroke, Batman would have found himself pushed to the brink. On the verge of defeat and likely death, he would have been saved by Batgirl, who'd swoop in to help. As they work to turn the tide against Deathstroke and gain the upper hand, I'd imagine Batman would choose to spare Deathstroke's life instead of killing him, as he goes back to embrace his #1 rule of no killing, completing his character arc. Deathstroke's life being spared is also teased in the nightmare scene in the Snyder Cut, which sees Batman and Deathstroke on good terms. Although in this scene, Batman does tell Joker he plans on killing him sometime in the future, so it's possible he makes an exception to this rule. Keep in mind, however, that this scene was written and shot after plans for Affleck's Batman film were scrapped, so they may not share any continuity with each other. So, why did this movie never happen? The answer is simple: the Justice League. While Affleck would say that he enjoyed making Batman vs Superman, he would call Justice League the worst experience of his professional life, saying, "You could teach a seminar on all of the reasons why this is not how to do it, ranging from the production to bad decisions to horrible personal tragedy, and just ending with the most monstrous taste in my mouth. I was going to direct a Batman film and Justice League made me go, I'm out. I never want to do any of this again. It broke my heart." Joss Whedon came in and was like, "I'll rescue you and we'll do 60 days of shooting and I'll write a whole thing around what you have. I've got the secret." And it wasn't the secret. And I started to drink too much. I was back at the hotel in London. It was either that or jump out the window. And I just thought, I don't want to participate in this in any way.
I found that I had kind of at just some point lost my enthusiasm or passion for it. You know, I was like, this should really be made by somebody for whom it's their wildest dream, you know, come true. And for me, it had become like something different, and it was clear to me that it was time to move on.
Eventually, Affleck would decide to step down as director, but still plan to star and produce. Unfortunately, Affleck struggled to get the script to a point where he was happy with it, saying, "We worked on the script, I was trying to figure out how to crack it, and I was never happy enough with it where I thought it was worth going out and making it." Compounding matters was the fact that Affleck was going through a divorce and grappling with alcohol dependency, and he harbored concerns that another awful production experience might lead him back into unhealthy patterns. All of these reasons would cause Affleck to finally step down, as he felt it was time for someone else to have a shot at it. And that person would be Matt Reeves. After reading Affleck's script, he would say it was very action-driven. It was very deeply connected to the DCEU, with other major characters from other movies and other comics.
I mean, that's the point. That was the point of the film. And this is why I think it was not a good idea to give it to Matt Reeves.
Popping up. I just knew that when I read it, this particular script was not the way I'd want to do it. So as Reeves started over, he ironically would choose another Fincher film for inspiration, Seven, and use that film as a jumping off point for his version of Batman. This story, however, does have a somewhat happy ending, as Affleck would get to return one last time to play the Cape Crusader in The Flash, feeling that he finally figured out how to play the character and nailed it in the film. Thanks for watching, everybody, and don't forget to like...
Yeah. Matt Reeves comes in. He's like, I want to do my own Batman, similar to like how Christopher Nolan did it, and apparently Warner Bros. Let him do it, and that was just not. See, that's what happens when you start a universe with no direction and you want to just rush everything. You have to have a plan. You have to have a structure. Know what you're making. Know what they're going to lead up to. And know how it's going to end, and know where you want your characters to be from this point to that point. WB did not do that. And again, another reason why too this failed is because during the time like WB didn't have like its own, like DC didn't have its own like separate division from WB. It was just everything was just under WB. That's something I will give James Gunn and Peter Safran is that they made their own division with Warner Bros. DC. So that's one thing I will give them. So that way they work everything out themselves in that division. But again, this should have never happened. This made no sense. So yeah, DC guys, if you guys feel like that DC is going somewhere with James Gunn's direction, that's cool. But me personally, we'll have to wait and see. The last thing I want to look at is is this video from TV Reviews. I actually want to take a look at this. This is a pretty good one.
I think we all know what the director's talking about when he states popular trends.
I hate when it does that.
I think we all know what the director's talking about when he states popular trends in anime. If you've been watching anime for a long time, you definitely know, you definitely have seen it, and it's clear that he's talking about battle shonen. He's talking about new anime fans. He's talking about the rise of certain anime in the last 5 or so years. And there's a lot of examples I can outline to kind of showcase what he's talking about, and so let's get into that first. First off, we gotta look at, where this really all started, at least, when anime started to blast into the mainstream. Demon Slayer. Now, obviously, a lot of people are going to point out, like, Dragon Ball was very popular, Pokemon and stuff like that, and yes, they have a place, they are very popular. Not going to act like they aren't. However, we have to admit that anime wasn't, like, overwhelmingly popular and wasn't accepted by pretty much the vastness of the world until Demon Slayer basically exploded and everybody started to talk about it. And then it was a systematic domino effect. Once Demon Slayer came out in 2019, COVID hit, and a lot of people that never would have touched anime, never would have ever given anime the time or day or manga chapter a time or day to read, sat down and for the first time experienced anime and manga culture because they had nothing better to do. They were sitting in their house, bored, didn't really have anything else, there was probably nothing good on Netflix or anything, so they decided to sit down and watch Demon Slayer. And this is a cascading effect. Everything that, came out after Demon Slayer has been relatively similar. Now, obviously, there is some things that stand out amongst the crowd that is different from, let's say, Demon Slayer, JJK, Soul Leveling, Chainsaw Man. Free Rent is a good example, since it's kind of what started this conversation. But when you look at the vastness of how popular anime has come, especially in the last 5 to 6 years, stuff like Free Rent is a drop in the bucket. It's something that has a very small community or niche community in comparison to everything else. We like to think that Free Rent is incredibly popular. We like to think that Free Rent is overwhelmingly popular to the same level as maybe Soul Leveling or Demon Slayer, but that is so far from the truth. We are dead wrong. And the reason for this is a recent example from this year, actually, the Crunchyroll Anime Awards. Now, I'm not going to bring up old drama and try to say Crunchyroll rigged it or not, but one of the big indications from that award
It's not. It kind of is rigged because again, just like with the gaming awards, these awards are based off of votes off of these certain critics, and they go off based off like what is popular, what is trending. That's literally what it is. Makes no sense that Soul Leveling went. And mind you, we're talking about the first part of Soul Leveling, which came out last year, not the part that came out this year. That came out. When did that part of Soul Leveling came out? That was last. Yeah. The second part was this year. I'm talking about the first part that came out last year. That's what they're basing off the awards off of, and it makes no fucking sense. But obviously, because of the hype of part 2 that came out this year, obviously people are gonna glaze the hell out of it. And again, it's just a series with flashy animation. And I feel like that's what modern shonen is now. I feel like modern shonen, in my opinion, now is just you don't really see like the development. You don't see these characters like you just don't see. The best way I can describe it is like take a look at original Naruto, right? Like yeah, Naruto had some battles and stuff, but when it came to like just them talking about certain obstacles they're trying to overcome, certain things they're trying to like do, it's just like they don't have those type of conversations anymore when it comes to modern shonen now. Like I feel like now everything is just like watered down, and it's not the same anymore. And that's why I miss series like that. We don't get shonen series like that anymore. Now we just get every episode there has to be a fight. There has to be a flashy fight every single episode. Hardly any dialogue, mostly fighting. That's what we get with series like Soul Leveling, Demon Slayer, JJK.
That showed everyone is that anime fans that typically watch stuff like Freerun or watch Welcome to the NHK, Steins Gate, Takapi, whatever.
Welcome to NHK is so underrated, man. I literally rewatched that series like a couple of weeks ago, man. I missed that series, man. I love that series so much.
We're in the minority now. Most anime fans, newcomers into the genre, typically only watch what's popular, typically what explodes on TikTok or social media platforms, what big content creators start talking about, and then they dive into it. For instance, JJK or Soul Leveling, for instance. And so that's the point here, is that typically, as trends go, what's popular is what's going to be talked about and what these companies are going to prioritize, what they're going to focus on and put all their resources into. And Freerun losing like it did really showcased this, because anyone that sat down and watched it and all the conversation around it, I think heavily agrees that it is one of the best shows in the last decade. It's hands down like in my top 10. It is a great show, so many life lessons, so many things to learn from it. It's fantastic. It is honestly a nice
Freerun is a really great series, man. I'm actually really happy I watched it when it came out. Every character that was introduced in the series, it wasn't just like a one and done. Like every character, they just brought weight. They brought like a lot of weight and layers to the series, man. Really dope series, man.
Traditional fantasy, stuff that honestly just reminds you so much of Lord of the Rings, and if it reminds me of Lord of the Rings, that's a massive victory in my book. But the point is that obviously these companies in Japan, these Western companies and everything, they have seen how much money anime can make. We've had records being beat back to back over years now to where the Japanese, anime industry is just expanding. There's so much money being funneled into it. There's so much, products being bought by people around the world that it is now a massive moneymaker. I don't know necessarily if it's the biggest moneymaker in Japan, but it's probably definitely in the top 5. If I had to say in terms of merchandise and just marketing and money being funneled into Japan or funneled out of Japan and other people buying from other countries for their products, anime definitely is there. And I think that in general, a lot of these companies, Western companies like Netflix and stuff, have noticed this and they're trying to dive into the pie, get their slice of the pie, and get a lot of money. And so what the director is necessarily saying here is that because of how the world works and how companies work in general, Disney is a good recent example since we had stuff like that being called out recently. They're going to chase trends. They're going to chase things that are going to be able to make easy money, which is why Disney has tried to make basically very safe stuff for a very long time with the MCU or their movies. It's because they'd rather make easy money than be experimental and do something relatively unique. Now, obviously, this doesn't always work because Disney is now starting to feel issues from that. I mean, look at their latest movie box office releases and money they're getting. But the point is that it's clear that the anime industry is becoming that. It's morphing into that slowly. With the news with Kadokawa trying to increase production budgets, with Kadokawa trying to basically cater more to the West, it's obvious that these companies are trying to get in line and just become more focused on...
I won't lie, there are like a few companies in Japan that do want to cater to the West, but I feel like majority though, they still want to keep their properties Japanese at the end of the day. They don't want to cater to Western values. So, I mean, these companies that try, it's obviously not going to work. Like, again, we saw what happened with the Lazarus anime. That was a series that catered to Western ideals, and look how that series ended up. So, I really don't think it's going to happen in the case that he's describing in terms of like every anime moving forward is going to be like that. There's going to be like just like with Lazarus, it's going to be like one or two that we get maybe a year, but I don't think it's going to be something that we see off very often, every release per season, because again, these things they're not popular, no one likes them, and it doesn't work. Like, look, Lazarus ended. Nobody is talking about Lazarus. You don't see anyone saying that this was like a great original series. Shinichiro is bad. Like, no one is saying that. Anyone who brings it up, it's like forgotten, or people just bring up it wasn't as good as it was. A lot of people dropped that series. A lot of people dropped Lazarus. So again, I agree with Chibi with certain stuff, but in terms of like us getting a lot of anime that's catered to the West, I don't think we're gonna get a lot of it that he's trying to claim. There's gonna be some, but it's not gonna be on the level of what he's describing.
On the global market than anything else, because there's more money to be made. And basically, anime is losing what made it popular to begin with. It being anime, being Japanese, made for the Japanese, and just people that, get into it are enjoying it. But it's clear that anime is now starting to play it a lot more safer and try to cater itself not just to the Japanese audience, but to an entire global audience, which I think is going to be disastrous in the long run, and it's going to lose the point of why anime became popular to begin with. And so when you have directors like this, for instance, the Free Run director, outright just talking about the situation, explaining their thought patterns on it, how they don't like the bias towards popular trends, it's not a disgruntled...
And my thing is, I don't have anything against people who like series like Soul Leveling or JJK. You're free to watch whatever you want. My thing is that I get kind of upset when you see some of these you can tell these are new gen fans, when they try to say like these series are better than like cult classic series. I think the worst one I seen recently, this was last week, some guy on Twitter created like a pretty lengthy thread talking about he watched Clannad and he said like it's one of the most boring series he ever seen, saying that series like JJK and Soul Loving is leagues better than the series. Like, this dude got crucified in the comments for what he said. Like, Clannad arguably is one of the series you cannot talk about in terms of like comparing it to like new gen animation, because Clannad is just such a heartwarming series, man. Like, especially the second part after story, man. Like, and he's trying to compare it to these new gen animation. You can just tell like what era they started watching anime. But again, like, is shonen the most popular genre? Yes. But like I said before, I think shonen has become very, very watered down compared to what it used to be. That's just my personal opinion about it.
Director or animator being upset about this. It's more of an insider seeing where the industry is going, seeing that the industry is shaping into only focusing on projects like JJK or Chainsaw Man or Demon Slayer, than focusing on projects like Takapi or Freerun. Because let's be honest here, anyone that's like watched Freerun or even Takapi, one of the recent examples that came out this season, I think we can all agree Takapi is incredible.
I need to watch that. I heard really great things about that. I need to watch that series.
Great anime. Like, I think we all, if you've watched it, can agree on that. However, in terms of money it's probably made, it is so minuscule, a drop in the bucket in comparison to what, let's say, Chainsaw Man or JJK can pump out. That it prints money, so to speak. But Takapi, for instance, won't. Despite how much love and passion was put into that project, and regardless of how it is a masterclass of a show, why would any company want to focus so heavily on something that isn't going to sell as much as, let's say, something that's safer, like Demon Slayer? So you can see the issue here. Now, I do want to go on record.
And again, I can't 100% really blame the West on the reason why these series are so popular too, is because, all right, for series like Demon Slayer and JJK, it's popular in Japan, and the proof of that is because of the manga sales. Like, when Demon Slayer first came out, the manga volumes for Demon Slayer would sell like hotcakes. Like, they were selling like in the hundreds of thousands every week. Same thing with JJK. JJK would be in competition with One Piece in terms of manga sales. Like they would sell like in the millions every volume. I believe, I don't know. Well, JJK ended now, but they would sell like in the millions. Like I would see the numbers on the charts. Freewen, when Freewen came out, the manga was selling pretty good too. Every volume was selling like in hundreds of thousands, like pretty high 100,000. So this series did pretty good. Freewen and Apothecary Diaries, both of those amazing series that sold pretty decent. Had pretty good manga sales. I'm actually really happy that those series got the popularity that they got. But but obviously they didn't receive the popularity in the Crunchyroll Awards, which again, the Crunchyroll Awards is the most catered bullshit awards I've ever seen. Like that awards is just so BS beyond anything I've ever seen.
Record and saying that Battle Shonen has always been popular. I'm not saying it isn't. There's a reason why Dragon Ball, One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, and stuff is incredibly popular. There's a reason for that. But it was still, like I said, a hot pot. There was so much to choose from. But now it seems like that hot pot is getting mixed with only one ingredient, and it's messing up the entirety of the cook. It's just literally one thing. And I feel like a lot of anime companies are establishing themselves or gearing in to only making stuff that's similar to what is making money. So, it's pretty sad, honestly. It just once again shows that anime as a culture and industry is fundamentally changing and changed, and it will never go back to what it once was. Obviously, as time progresses, we will see little things that stand out like Freeren or Togepi come here and there over the years, but it'll become, I think, more and more rarer as time goes on, as more series focus on the same trends that, has been popular for the last few years. It's basically kind of what happens with the gaming community. Like, you remember the whole zombie trend in the early 2010s, and then you had the Battle Royale trend and all that. There's always these trends, and I feel like that's kind of what's happening to anime, but on a more mainstream level, that will have disastrous effects for the entire industry and what studios actually focus on, because there's going to be a lot of stories and series that are going to be basically thrown to the side or just swept under the rug and never focused on, just to focus on something that could reach a wide appeal of an audience. That's what I think the future is. So yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about this. It's very fascinating, honestly, and I do want to show something on...
Yeah, the future of I just hope anime makes a turn, because again, there's still a lot of amazing manga that still have not received an anime adaptation yet. Like for example, I know everyone has been screaming this for decades now. We still have not received a proper adaptation for Berserk. Berserk is another one. Vagabond is another one. Well, even though Vagabond has been on hiatus for a couple of years now, I do believe that the creator has said that he wants to return to the series. But that's another series that hasn't received an anime adaptation. And there's so many more. Claymore hasn't received like a proper anime adaptation or a continuation. Fire Punch. There's a lot of series that either hasn't received proper anime adaptation or they haven't like completed their adaptations yet. So, and I feel like most of these anime that's getting greenlit now is based off like fairly new manga that came out in the past couple in only a few couple of years ago, like in the past 5 years. Like there's series that came out like years ago still hasn't received proper anime adaptations or has even completed their adaptations yet. So
honestly, that does need to be called out, that is relevant to this conversation, so let's switch to that. So this right here is a clip that graced my feed earlier today when I was, about to talk about this article here, but this clip in question is more or less a good example of what I've been talking about for years at this point, and how the anime community has changed, and you have the used-to-be bullies, people that would bully anime fans, diving into the anime community to change it within. And I'm just gonna play about probably 10 seconds of this clip, and you can kind of get a good grasp of what this person's trying to say. So let's play this real quick.
You own this, you need to be locked up. You ever put something like this in your cart, you need to be locked up. If you see this and don't see a problem with it, you should probably seek some help. So I understand this has always been a thing in the anime community, but at some point we have to draw a line somewhere. Y'all...
If I need to point out why this is wrong, I will. Let's explain. I'll make it very brief.
So again, yeah, this is like I said, tourist right here. You can obviously tell this is a tourist right here. This is someone who literally just got into anime.
These new fans that used to never care for anime, don't care about the culture, don't care to adapt to the culture or learn why people like anime or manga, they're coming into the communities and trying to force the will of anime and manga and light novels, whatever, to bend to their ideals of what they want, which gets into the conversation of the whole director thing. That these new fans are forcing these studios and animators and stuff to do what they want, this merchandise sells to do what they want, and if they don't do what they want, then they're going to basically, be very upset. They're going to pull a hissy fit, and they're going to, decry it or try to buzzword you to death. And in this case, what this individual does throughout this entire clip is pretty much say that you're a pedo if you buy figures, fan service etchy figures of characters. Yeah, we've gotten to that point. We've gotten to that point to where if you buy a figure of an anime, you're a weirdo. You should turn yourself into the police.
So if you buy a figure, you're a weirdo. But if you follow these OnlyFans girls on social media, you consider normal, right? These are the same type of people that follow OnlyFans girls.
That's crazy, man. This is the type of new anime fans that we've been getting, and it's getting worse. You didn't see this type of stuff, honestly, pre-2020. You might have seen it.
And this is why I keep saying we gotta keep anime gatekeeped. Anime going mainstream is one of the biggest mistakes to ever happen. Anime and gaming, one of the biggest mistakes to ever happen. But I'll leave this video at that. The last thing I will look at is something that that I'm still very confused upon if this is even going to still be a thing at this point. So let's take a look at this. I don't know if I'm pretty sure you guys seen this already before, but I really want to show you guys this because, I'm just so confused that, why they would go in this direction for this game. So, give you guys some context. So, this is a short cinematic trailer that came out during the Game Awards a couple of months back. Obviously you could see, look at the like and dislike ratio for this. Look at this. There's twice as more dislikes, almost 3 times more dislikes than likes for this. Shout out to PlayStation for keeping the comment section on. But this is from Naughty Dogs. This is the same studio that has done The Last of Us, Uncharted. When The Last of Us came out, I think The Last of Us is still considered a cult classic in gaming. Obviously, we know what happened with the second game when it released. It was the downfall for that series, and it killed the series, according to Naughty Dog themselves. But it looks like they're going and creating a new IP called Intergalactica: The Heretic Prophet, which is the dumbest name for a fucking game, in my opinion. Especially for a new IP like that. This name is just so stupid. But let's take a look at this. You'll see, once we play it, you'll see why it has this many downvotes. Let me fast forward a little bit. Why? 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 Why does anyone even think this was a good idea? You're creating a new project and you have a chick shaving her head. In what world did you think this was like a good idea? Gamers don't want to play as an ugly character. I'm just being complete like gamers do not like ugly things. Like they don't want to play as an ugly character. There's a reason why games like Concord failed. This is not appealing. This is not appealing. Like let me just do a Google search real quick. Let's hold on. Let's look at some stuff real quick. So Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade. Right? So where's Eve? So this is Stellar Blade, right? Eve. Very attractive female. Has hair. Has hair. Look at that. Has hair. But you guys, you want to do this. Look at another game. Nier Automata. Nier Automata 2B. I still need to play this game. This is 2B. Click on a decent picture for just on random. Do this one. 2B. I think it's for the anime. 2B. Very attractive female. Has hair. Look at that. Has hair. Well, there's actually a better one. But you want to do this. Which one looks more appealing? If as a gamer, which one would you rather play as? This is beautiful. This is fucking ugly. I don't understand why Western gaming is trying so hard to make their female characters look so ugly. Honestly, you can barely even tell this is a female. I'm just so confused why they keep picking ugly characters for Western gaming. And you're going with, especially like, why would you even pick this actress? Like this actress is like, this is just like I consider her like someone who's worse as Pedro Pascal. This is someone who will bend the knee to anything. But yeah, let's continue watching. And her body is so masculine too.
Jordan?
Tell me something good.
Well, you're right, it checks out. He's hiding out around the Superior Moon.
Excellent.
How is that excellent? He's next to fucking Superior. No one has left that planet in over 600 years. Anyone who even flies close to it is never heard from again.
Superstitions.
No. Superstitions are the crazy rumors about what happened on that planet. These are facts.
You worry too much.
You know what I worry just to write about.
And that's something that gets me upset about not just with gaming but with other properties too. Like, you introduce an ugly character, especially, and it's always a female. The female, like, you always warn her about the dangers, and they just come off as snotty, sarcastic, and rude. And it's just like, why should we even care about these characters?
I say we wait for him to leave, or how about we find a new lead? He's not worth it.
This is what I'm talking about, like, snotty, annoying, and rude. Why? And she's ugly. Why should we even care about this character? And the fact that the Game Awards, like, hyped this, Like that's like they really tried to hype this up, thinking that people are gonna like this shit. Like this shit is so stupid. I don't care how good the graphics are. The character is ugly, and again, this video proves that. Look at the like and dislike ratio. Nobody likes this.
I'm wasting my time, aren't I?
Can you please claim him?
Like, I'm just so confused what direction they're going.
I don't need another hunter swooping in.
Who is swooping? No one is crazy enough to go there.
He clearly is.
He is clearly desperate.
And so am I, so claim him, or I will find another agent.
I am just so confused. Who was in charge of the design for this main character? Who like obviously I know who it is, Neil Druckmann, but still, why? Like, why does he even think that gamers are gonna find this appealing?
With all your fucking shit. Okay, alright, you know what? There, you're the boss.
Thank you.
Listen, kid. I'll see you on the other side.
This actress was woke as hell too, by the way. I don't know why they have so many of these real life branding in this. I don't get why there's so many of them. What I understand about this game is going to be kind of like their own like Souls-like game, from what I understand, according to rumors. I think they show like a shot of her like fighting some robot. Oh man, this game's gonna feel so hard, man. This game is going to fail so hard. It's not even funny. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end the stream there. Thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. I do want to get back into doing some drawing streams. I might do one on Sunday. But until then, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, follow me on social media. This is the Waveblur, and I am signing out.